the idea that assassinations become normal again is already in itself a much more immediate and much worse existential threat to democracy than Trump himself. To think that this was staged is insane. If the guy had shot half a second earlier, he probably would have died. That photo of him with the blood on his face and his fist in the air and the American flag in the background is gonna be a campaign poster for the ages. Also, holy shit, that event yesterday was messed up. Yeah, this is not good, guys. It's a complicated question, obviously, because myself and a lot of better informed people and better, like, smarter people than me have been calling Trump an existential threat to US democracy and to democracy in the world in general. And that is true, and that sounds like something that would imply, therefore, that Trump dying would be a good thing for democracy. But no, because the normalization of political violence is a worse existential threat than Trump himself. Like, first of all, that just like the idea that assassinations become normal again is already in itself a much more immediate and much worse existential threat to democracy than Trump himself. And secondly, Trump himself isn't the problem. Like, the existential threat, yes, Trump at the moment is embodied in the person of Trump, but Trump is a symptom of the situation that has got us here. And if Trump himself is taken out, that situation is still here, and it's just going to bring us another Trump. Like, assassinations are not the solution in this situation. Like, if that assassination had succeeded, it would just mean that there would be another Trump 2 years down the line that would probably be worse. We need to fix the situation that has got us to a point where Trump is leading the polls. And that is, like, shooting him is not a solution for that. If anything, right now he's doing better than he ever has. So no, this is like the worst possible outcomes are all happening right now, basically. The fact that we gotten to this point at all is disastrous, and I don't know how we come back from it. I don't know either. So there's multiple things. Number one, this is not the first presidential assassination attempt. There have, like, even in other, obviously in other countries, like Japan has had their prime minister assassinated a while ago. There was one recently in Slovakia. In the US, it's the first one in a long time, but they used to happen more often. Like, we weren't in this situation when there was an assassination attempt against Reagan. I don't think the political climate was nearly as on a knife's edge as it is right now. Number one, this is, like, obviously still an incredibly new story. Like, it just came out, and there's going to be so much fake news about it. There's going to be like mistaken reporting by credible news companies. So the first thing is, like, take everything that comes out on this with a grain of salt. And always, like, use a bit of judgment. And if something seems a bit crazy, go like, yeah, really, let's wait until confirmation for that. Every time there's a huge news story like this one, always do that. Number two is the conspiracy theories need to stop, and the conspiracy theories from both sides. The left is going, oh, this is staged to help his campaign. Like, his campaign didn't need the help. He was already doing fine campaign wise, and to think that this was staged is insane. Do you realize how close he came to dying? Like, the bullet hit his ear, and not only did it hit his ear, like, you can see in the video that the bullet missed his face because he did, like, a shrug right when it hit his ear. So it would be the other. Wait, no, it would be this direct. I don't know. He came an inch or two away from dying, and it would have been like if the guy had shot half a second earlier, he probably would have died. And that is not something that you stage or that you rehearse, or there is no way to rehearse that level of risk. So the idea that this was staged is completely out the window. There are people who are saying, oh, but the crowd didn't run away, therefore the crowd knew that it wasn't. No, like, there was 5.8 seconds between the first shot and when he was taken down, the shooter. The crowd was in shock, and if the shooter had continued to shoot, if he had started shooting in the crowd, yes, you would have absolutely seen the crowd, like, in a moment of panic, run away. But the fact that the crowd didn't immediately run away in the first 5 seconds doesn't mean that they knew. And like, it would be ridiculous to think that they would just like inform an entire crowd of people. Like, do you think they were all actors and that none of them would talk afterwards? Like, that's crazy. I don't agree with that. The conspiracy theories are always going to be there. No, of course the conspiracies are always going to be there. But we need to push back on the fact that there's always going to be conspiracy theories doesn't mean that we shouldn't push back on the conspiracy theories, is what I'm saying. On the right, the conspiracy theories are that this was a Biden coup. Biden assassination. Well, technically, Biden is now allowed to use SEAL Team 6 to assassinate Trump. So if it was a Biden assassination, they would have used SEAL Team 6 and he would be dead right now. No, and now it's come out again, like, wait for more information about this, and there's probably going to be information coming out about his like social media habits and whatever. But so far, what we know of the shooter, whose name I'm not going to repeat, is that he was a registered Republican and that he was wearing a gun YouTuber's t-shirt when he was killed. So that would not lean in favor of this was a Democratic, big D Democratic Biden orchestrated attempt or anything like that. And there's also like the ridiculous, like, oh, the fact that this happened is because of DEI hires in the Secret Service. Which, again, is there possibly complacency? Like, the last actual assassination attempt on a president was 40 years ago. So is it possible that Secret Service has gotten a little bit complacent since then? Yes. The shooter donated to Act Blue. Like, the thing is, the shooter will know more, I'm guessing, once they look into his social media, and there's going to be a big investigation, and there's more information that's going to come out. I know that the shooter donated to a Democratic PAC. We don't know why the shooter was against Trump. It could have been that the shooter was like a moderate Republican who's a never-Trumper and was going after Trump for that reason. Or it could have been that the shooter was a like what's the name of that the Groyper guy, the neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes. Right before I Google him, it's Nick Fuentes. So it could have been a Nick Fuentes fan who was like, Nick Fuentes talks about how Trump is controlled by Jews as well, because like that's what Nazis say all the time. It's always like, you'd have the classic far right party or candidate like Trump, like Marine Le Pen, and then you have the even further right Nazis who call that person a leftist and controlled by Jews and all of that. But yeah, so we'll know more information about the shooter. You don't need to have a strong, like, this is always the thing. This is also the reason why I didn't like, first of all, I didn't rush to talk about this because I was in a train, like a night train back to Berlin. And then I got here this morning with a terrible night's sleep, and I was still trying to get my thoughts together. But secondly, like, not everyone needs to have an immediate take on this. Sometimes all you need to do is, like, if you want to be informed, you look at the news agencies that are pushing out like factual, just the bare bones information that we know. You don't need to have a strong take on the grand scheme of things. You don't need to have a take on exactly what this is going to mean in the long term and anything like that. You can just go like, this is the information that we know, and that's fine. That is totally fine. But the only take here is there would have been no good outcome from the assassination attempt succeeding, other than maybe very short term. But like, it doesn't solve any of the structural problems that we had, other than getting rid of like the immediate existential threat, but in like the worst way possible. Like, basically it's like, oh, there's a glitch on my computer, so I'm going to throw my computer out the window and that's going to get rid of the glitch, is essentially what political assassinations do in this case. It's like, the glitch is bad, throwing your computer out the window is worse. Anyway, thinking about like what might happen now is, even though there is no indication other than like one donation. Like, there's going to be more information coming out on the shooter, but there's no indication that he's like a Democratic plant in any way. Everything that we know from him just would tend to show that he's a politically incoherent 20-year-old, probably radicalized in some way or another. And yeah, well, the problem is that Trump, first of all, is definitely going to benefit from this politically. That photo of him with the blood on his face and his fist in the air and the American flag in the background is going to be a campaign poster for the ages. Like, that photo is going down in the history books no matter what. No matter what you think of Trump, that photo is going to stay in the history books. He's going to use this to go after his political enemies and to justify tougher policies once elected, if elected, probably if elected, no matter what, even if it turns out that there's no way there's literally no connection whatsoever to Democrats. He's still going to use this to go after his political enemies as a increased security, whatever. So there's no positive outlook on this. There's no positive outcome. And it's not, generally speaking, the fact that this is becoming more and more, seemingly more and more common. I sound doomer, and I'm pessimistic in the short term. Like there's no doubt about that. Things are not looking good right now. Things are not looking good for, like, within our lifetimes. We are going to see some interesting stuff, to say the least. But I also don't want to present that as like oh, it's all over. We're doomed. Civilization is going to collapse, and we're all going to fade into darkness. And like there's always a point in going on. There's always a point in keeping on trying things. And also, like, even if things get really, 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 really bad, things are going to get better. And we are going to get through this no matter what. It's possible that the system needs to collapse so that we can rebuild it better. And if it does collapse, that's going to suck for a while, and then we're going to fix it, and then it's going to be okay. But we need to keep at it, and we need to stay engaged in that process until things are okay. Like, we can't give up. And climate change is another thing that's going to make the tensions even worse. Like the climate refugees and the resource scarcity and the lack of our inability to grow crops because we don't have enough water and because of the climate change. Like, all of that, none of it looks good. But we're going to figure it out. Like, that's the most important thing that you need to keep in mind is we've always figured it out as a human species, and we are going to continue to figure it out. We are just going through some challenging times, and there have been other challenging times. Like the plague happened, and it killed a bunch of people, and that sucked. And then people rebuilt, and that I don't think we are going to live through plague times. We're going to live through probably like a mini dark age or something. I don't even know what it's going to be comparable to. And then things will get better, and everyone's going to be better for it, and that's the important thing to remember. I saw some people compared to the Reichstag fire. Is that, well, the thing with the Reichstag fire is that was, or the Beer Hall Putsch, is those were actually orchestrated, and I don't think this is the case. I think it's going to be used as an excuse for that, for harsher action from Republicans, but I don't like the way in which it's not appropriate is that this was not an orchestrated event, and we need to accept that nothing indicates that it is. Nothing indicates that and if I happen to be wrong, and if we happen to find out that they hired the best sharpshooter in the world to hit his ear instead of his face, and that was the plan, but they just actually orchestrated this and somehow rehearsed it and whatever. We still don't know what caused the Reichstag fire, though. Okay, I don't know, man. Either way, I do think that they're gonna seize on it to they're gonna capitalize on it for sure. Doesn't matter whether or not they orchestrated it. Like, to be clear, they didn't orchestrate it, but even if they had, what matters is what they're going to use this for is the real question. What are they going to they're going to use this to justify some kind of security state once Trump is back in office, especially if there are more security threats against him in the future. Don't forget to like and follow. This was a clip from the weekly Barely Informed live stream. You can catch it every Sunday on the main Barely Informed YouTube channel, and please support us on Patreon. The link for both of those are down below.